I remember vividly coming here. I was in the San Francisco Bay Area where I was in graduate school at Stanford University, where I got a master's in mechanical engineering with a concentration in robotics and vehicle design. And so one of the things we did at Stanford in research, we made cars that drove themselves. Some of you may remember this old show, Knight Rider. Probably dating myself, Michael Knight, where we were making Michael Knight cars and had Corvettes that drove themselves. And also, I worked on the prevention of 18-wheelers from rolling over. So how can we prevent 18-wheelers from rolling over? So I really loved what I was doing in graduate school. Graduated, came to Michelin, where I was doing the same thing. I came to Michelin as a vehicle dynamics, vehicle performance engineer, looking at automobiles and 18-wheelers. And when I came to Michelin, my colleagues at Michelin, they would always tease me. They would say, Jemond, all you do is play video games and drive fast cars. And that was pretty much true, because I would get to work in the morning, I'd sit down at my computer, I would take a car and do simulations, so it looked like I was playing video games. I had this car on the racetrack doing simulations. And then after lunch, we'd go to the racetrack, put on a racing suit with a helmet, and sit in some car, maybe a Porsche. I do not drive a Porsche now, nor have I ever driven a Porsche. We'd sit in a Porsche with the laptop in the passenger seat and redo those maneuvers to make sure what we predicted in the morning actually happened in real life. The goal was to cut down on some of the testing. So I love my job. I love being in Michelin because I got to see so many different types of cars, as opposed to if I worked for Ford, I would only see Ford cars. And plus I was out of school. So Psalm 23 could become the real Psalm 23. The Psalm 23 for graduate students and those who are in college is, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not flock. So I could say, now the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, although I do want more money. So I came to Michelin in hopes of making some more money and working with these cars. And it was good to be at a French company because my name, Jemond, is French. It means worldly. I get this name from my mother and father, who both studied French. So they wondered about who is this guy with this French name, Jemond, worldly, and this English last name, Taylor. So it was in that context that I came to this church, St. Philip's, because part of my philosophy has been in whichever city I live, the same effort I make in finding a physical home, like my first apartment in Malden, South Carolina, I need to make that same amount of effort in finding a spiritual home. So I came and I moved in Malden. And that next Sunday, I went around looking for churches, and 3 weeks later, it took me 3 weeks to find this place. I came to St. Philip's and became very active in this neighborhood. It really surprised me coming here, one, because it was in a new church building. It's not often that we see historically black Episcopal churches worshiping in new facilities, so I was excited to see that. And I was excited to see this church in this neighborhood and how the church continues to be engaged in this neighborhood. Another surprise that happened when I came here with no idea of being an ordained minister, even thinking about that. But here at St. Philip's and even at Michelin, different people would stop me and say, Jemond, have you thought about ministry? And my answer consistently was no. I haven't, which really was not telling the truth, because I just didn't want to let anybody know that. But enough people kept asking me about it that I started this process, really this 2-year process of what we call discernment, of trying to see if God is calling someone to ministry. And so I met with people in this wonderful parish and people throughout the city of Greenville and throughout the upstate down to Columbia. And then after that, after these 2 years, I got the thumbs up to go to seminary, and I resigned from Michelin. And I have to be honest, the day I resigned from Michelin, which was May 1st, 2006, was one of the more disappointing days of my life. And I'll tell you why. I work for a pretty stiff man. My manager rarely smiled. And so I actually feared walking into his office to submit my letter of resignation. When I submitted my letter to him, he slammed his hand on the desk, and he stood up and said, "Congratulations." I was expecting this man to be disappointed. Well, he was a little bit disappointed, but to say some profane things, but he congratulated me. And person after person I met would say, "What took you so long? I've known this for some time. About time you found out. You're always the last one to know anyway." So this is what I picked up from people, and to me, that was confirmation, because it let me know that people were seeing things in me that I couldn't even see in myself. And so I packed up, and I went to Manhattan, New York City. Never thought I'd live in New York, so I joined Beth's sorority, I guess. Or maybe you have to ask her if that's A5A or K Psi or GST, I don't know. But I joined her sorority fraternity and had a great 3 years in New York City, where I got a master's degree in theology, or Master of Divinity, with a concentration in Ethiopian history, one of these unique things that I find fascinating, the Ethiopian church. I call the Ethiopian church indigenous black Christianity. Christianity on the continent of Africa that we find pre-slave traders and colonialists bringing Christianity to the continent. So I enjoy studying that. So I was there for 3 years and then graduated in 2009 and went to Dallas, Texas, to this church, St. Michael and All Angels. Never thought I would be living in Dallas, much less at St. Michael and All Angels, where I carried the title of missionary. That means I am a local missionary and evangelist. So I work in 3 areas. At St. Michael, I oversee ministries to the 20s and 30s. And if any of you know people in their 20s and 30s, I am in my 30s actually. That is missionary work. So even at St. Michael, being a missionary to people in their 20s and 30s. And then I'm in a mostly Spanish-speaking neighborhood called Jubilee Park. This has been an area where St. Michael has been working with the residents of Jubilee Park for some 15 years, bringing about transformation. There, I'm a missionary, literally walking the streets, praying with people. I pray with drug dealers. I pray with people who are struggling with addiction. I also use outdoor drama as a way of telling the Christian story. So this past Christmas, we met in Jubilee Park. About 300 of us met in Jubilee Park, 300 residents, and we gathered around this huge bonfire. This is the light of Christ coming into the world. And from this huge bonfire, 300 of us lit little candles. And we had a little donkey. A donkey's name was Jack. Jack is 94 years old. I didn't know donkeys could live to be 94 years old. 94 years old, we had a Latina Mary and a black Joseph. So we were very, very cosmopolitan, very up to date. And we went through the neighborhood knocking on doors, asking people, is there room for Jesus Christ to be born in the inn? There is not any room. Boom! Door slammed in our face. This is all orchestrated. The people know we're going. So we did this throughout the neighborhood. So using outdoor drama as a means of evangelism. And then I am at a historically black Episcopal elementary school, St. Philip's. Carries the same name as this church, St. Philip's School, where I teach a class on prayer, lead chapel, and do counseling. And the amazing thing about St. Philip's, it's in a neighborhood a little bit like Nicholtown. I would say probably Nicholtown is doing a lot better than South Dallas. Even though the students graduate in the 6th grade and go to public and private middle school and high schools, the high school graduation rate for any and every St. Philip's student is 100%. And the college graduation rate is 90%. So this school of young black boys and young black girls is really doing amazing things. So that is my ministry in Dallas. And I view this ministry as that of transformation. When people ask me, when they say, Jemond, what is your ministry? Can you sum up your ministry in one word? I typically use the word transformation. To me, transformation is the Christian story. Time and time again, we look throughout Scripture And God is always transforming somebody's present reality, which seems grim, which seems to have despair. God is transforming that into a new reality. And for Christians, the greatest story of transformation we have is the story of Jesus Christ. That Jesus Christ, the one who was murdered by the Romans, the one who hangs on the cross, the one who dies, the one who we think the story is over, that after 3 days, God raises him from the dead to resurrected life, to life that was better after his death than before his death. So God transforms Jesus Christ into a new resurrected being, and so that is where I base my ministry, a ministry of transformation, a ministry of looking at the reality, seeing that much needs to be desired, but not having that bog me down. In Dallas, one of the examples for this ministry of transformation that I see is this neighborhood called Jubilee Park. Jubilee Park, as I mentioned, is in an underserved area, mostly Spanish-speaking. 15 years ago, people called Jubilee Park the DMZ, the Demilitarized Zone. This place looked like World War II Germany after bombings. There were many abandoned houses. There were crack houses. There were prostitution houses. Just rampant despair. And after 15 years of ministry in this place between St. Michael and Jubilee Park, the area, that crime is down now 60%. Crime is down 60% within the past 3 years. The elementary school, which was the worst performing school in all of Dallas, not only was it in the oldest school building, built in 1901. Can you imagine going to a school building built in 1901? Not only did they have the oldest school building in the city of Dallas, it was the worst school in the city of Dallas. And after 8 years of mentoring and tutoring, this school, which was the worst, becomes a school of distinction, a school that is exemplary. A lot of transformation. Abandoned homes now make one of the biggest parks we have within the city of Dallas itself. So transformation all around. I view my ministry as that of transformation because we take the present reality, which looks like despair. We don't dwell on that. We look through that reality into a future where we see abundant life, abundant joy, and where we see God. We try to bring God's future vision to the present. That, to me, is transformation. Transformation in education. The title of what I want to talk about deals with the right choice, R-I-T-E, the right choice, talking about the school to prison pipeline. I don't have to convince many of you that when we look at the state of public education in the U.S. and almost any area, that the state seems a little bit to have a lot of despair, that there doesn't seem to be much hope. This is true in the city of Dallas. When you look at the graduation rates, when you look at the number of people who are dropping out, there does not seem to be that much positive going on as it relates to education. We may say that this is a state of despair. So what is the school to prison pipeline? We think of the school to prison pipeline as being this disturbing pattern of school disciplinary problems that escalate from suspension to removal from school to the juvenile justice system and eventually school dropout.